Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are about to get started, waiting for Quinn to hop on, and we'll be getting started with our reading for this evening. Welcome in, welcome in. Just waiting for Quinn to hop on, and we'll go ahead and get the stream going. Hey, Benji, what's up? What's going on? Hope you're doing well. Happy Sunday. Oh, he was just on, and now it shows he's offline. But it says he has one person in his thing. Okay, there we go. There we go. Good evening, brother.
What's up? How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Doing well. Same. Weird.
What? Why did I do? Well, that's fine, I guess. Whatever.
Do you happen to be hearing any feedback this time?
No, I do not hear any feedback. No feedback at all. And if the music is too loud, for both you, Quinn, and people in the audience, if the music is too loud, just let me know.
Yeah, no problem.
We are reading the 3 books of occult philosophy, Daughter of the King. We are reading the 3 books of occult philosophy. We are in book 1. So we should be finished book 1 in a couple of weeks, judging by how fast we've been getting through some of these chapters. And then we'll be moving into book 2 of the 3 books of occult philosophy. So
yeah, we might have to discuss another day because my new job is coming up, and it's once again opening a restaurant.
Yeah, man, it works.
Yeah.
Just let me know which night works best for you, and we'll see if we can accommodate.
Yeah, got you.
All right. No, Ivan, that's on Wednesdays. 111 van, that's on Wednesdays. Sundays is the 3 books of occult philosophy. We only discuss Hermeticism on Wednesday nights with Alchemic Mason. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to be picking up on chapter 57, I believe. Put that in there.
Yes.
All right. And let's see how long this one is. It's not that long. Yeah, it's not that long. I don't know how we should split this. You know what? I'll just read the whole thing. I'll start it off, and I'll read the whole chapter.
Go for it.
And you can take chapter 58. It's roughly the same. Actually, no, 58's a little bigger, so we might want to split that one up.
Yeah.
But all right. So we are in the 3 books of occult philosophy. Book 1. We are on chapter 57. Which is of geomancy, hydromancy, aeromancy, and pyromancy, divinations of the 4 elements. And if you want to follow along, the 3 books of occult philosophy is so old that it is in the public domain. So you can find it for free online. Just Google 3 books of occult philosophy. Or you can go on like Esoteric Archives or Sacred Texts or something along those lines and read it on the website. For free. We are on chapter 57. Okay. It states, moreover, the elements also teach us about fated events, of which there are 4 well-known divinations that are called geomancy, hydromancy, aeromancy, and pyromancy. Lucan wrote of the sorceress who seems to boast of these herself by saying, truly the earth, air, the heavens, chaos, seas, plains, and rocks of Roadope speak. And this is from Lucan's Parasalia. Therefore, the first is geomancy, the moving, rattling, swelling, trembling, tearing, making deep holes, exhaling vapors, and other impressions of the earth indicate the future. The Arab Almadel handed down, these arts to us, and this is referring to Pico de Mirandella's De Rerum, where he cites the Armadel as doing exactly that. But there is another kind of geomancy, which is divined by inscribing certain forceful or chance pricks in the earth, of which we will not speculate here, but we will speak of this later among the lots. But hydromancy excels in prophecy through impressions of water, such as ebbing and flowing, raising and lowering, storms, colors, and the like. To these are also added visions that happen in the water. The Persians discovered a kind of divination that was referred by Varro, where a boy saw an effigy of Mercury in water that predicted in 150 verses all of the events of the Mithridates War. We also read that Numa Pompilius practiced hydromancy. Indeed, he elicited the images of the gods in water and learned the future from them. And Pythagoras also practiced this art a long time after Numa. There was also a kind of hydromancy called lacanomancy that the Assyrians once held in great esteem. In that art, plates of gold, silver, and precious stones were inscribed with certain images, names, and characters, and they were placed into basins full of water. It is said about this art that melted lead or wax was also cast into the water, and things that one desired to know were shown as notable images. So essentially scrying. That's just a old-timey way of describing what's going on during the scrying process. There were also once prophetic springs, such as the Patreon Foundation at Achaia. And it was said that the water of Juno at Epidaurus, and many more of which we will speak later in this section on oracles. However, here we refer to the divination of fish, once captured by the Lycians in a place called Dina, near the sea in the sacred grove of Apollo, in a hollowed out place in the sand. When consulting about the future, one lowered roasted meat into the hollow. Suddenly, that place was filled with water, and a great multitude of fish and strange figures unknown to men appeared. From these forms, prophets predicted the future. This was widely referred to by Polycharmus in the Lycian history by Athenaeus. In a similar manner, aeromancy provides predictions through the impressions of the air, through blowing of wind, through rainbows, halos, through mist and clouds, imaginations in clouds and visions in the air. Divination of fire is through impressions of fire, through comets, colors of fire, and through visions and imagination in fire. Thus, the wife of Cicero predicted the future, that the following year he would be consul. After certain sacrifices, as she wished in the ashes, she saw that flames suddenly burst forth. In this manner, Pliny said that if fires kindled on the earth are pale and hum, this will report storms. Also, rain is predicted if in a lamp the flame twists and flies about. It portends wind if the flames go out in the lamps or can scarcely be kindled. It is the same when sparks fly out in a mass, or when coals stick to the pots when lifted, or when the fire has subsided and the embers shatter or send out sparks, or when the ash in the hearth solidifies and when it glows excessively from the coals. To this is added capnomancy, which is said to be from smoke. One considers the colors of the flame and smoke, its sound and movement, when it rises straight or slanting or rolling in a circle, just as we read in Statius's in his verses, May piety be overcome, O maiden. Come set the altar. Let us ask the gods above. She gazes keenly and points to the bloody flame growing from wind, and the middle flame peaks clear yet rises bright. Then she teaches him that, like a serpent, two-headed and red, the flame gyrates and rolls. From the craters of Etna and the fields of the nymphs of Apollonia, auguries were taken from fire and flames. It was thought happy if the flames took what was cast into them, and sad if it was rejected. And that completes chapter 57 of Geomancy, Hydromancy, Aeromancy, and Pyromancy. So, a very interesting chapter. I will say I was not aware of the fish divination. I did not know that that was a method of divination that was practiced in antiquity, but apparently a few famous people, Pythagoras, Numa Pompilius, and Juno at Epidaurus, have all engaged in this hydromantic practice. So I was not aware of the fish one. I do wonder how that would work, and by what means does it cause the fish to come up through the water in this hole that people are supposed to lower meat into? I do wonder about that. I guess I'd have to look into that a little more. Read some of Pico's work here. I'm not sure if you've heard of anything like that.
No, I haven't heard of anything like that. I mean, obviously they had various techniques of divination and scrying back then. Pretty much anything that would result in some type of random conclusion, they would use, from birds to fish to putting hot lead and wax into water,
Yeah.
And kind of along the same things of like, like we were talking about last time, reading tea leaves, reading maybe you could probably even do the same thing with oil and water. Yeah, anything that could be manipulated by the spirits, and nothing that is like totally set. You know what I mean by set? Like, it's the outcome is random. You know, the outcome is random. Like a roll of a dice. So, never heard of the fish thing, but I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I found it interesting. 1 second here. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had to make sure it didn't go away on my screen here. So there was a part here that it talked about Persia, and I think it was with the water divination. I'm trying to find it. And I found it interesting that it mentioned that Persia has some pretty interesting techniques, because I've always said that, in my opinion, what we have here in, even though Persia we consider the West, when it comes to scrying, or in this case, hydromancy, it leaves a lot to be desired. And in my opinion, I feel the Arabs have the best methods of scrying. I'm well known for saying that. And it's very interesting that Agrippa agrees with at least the Persians, which would have been Iran, if I recall correctly. So with Babylon being Iraq. But here it is right here, where it says the Persians discovered a kind of divination that was referred to by Varro, where a boy saw an effigy in water that predicted in 150 verses all of the events of the Mithridates War. So that's very interesting that, that accurate, or that accuracy comes out of Persia. Because I've always had the feeling that the Arabs have some of the best methods of scrying, especially ink bowl scrying. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I don't know which manuscripts, but there's plenty of the Solomonic manuscripts that were translated from Greek. Those were written in Greek from Arab, I believe. So a lot of a lot of the techniques that we have for Western magic itself, can be the majority of it could be linked back to those lands.
Indeed, indeed. Now some of this, especially when it was talking about the air divination and how like you can tell storms are coming by if the wind is blowing and you're not able to put out the fire and things like that. I can see the argument of why maybe someone would want to consider that type of thing divination, but because you're taking signs, you're using signs, and you're using those signs to predict a future occurrence, a future happening. But that doesn't seem to be a divination, at least in my opinion. That seems to be an attempt to make everything magical and to make everything spiritual and everything supernatural. I wouldn't necessarily look at, oh, the wind is blowing and, I'm not able to light a campfire, so a storm is coming. Well, that's kind of, obvious. I don't know if that's divination. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if you were to take a lot of things, like you take something like chemistry today, and then, if you were to, transport it back into time, they'd see a lot of different things as magic, and as supernatural. But nowadays, it's just like, oh, we just have a better understanding of the world,
Yeah.
a better understanding of science, and yeah, it's not hard to tell when looking at the sky, there's gonna be a storm coming, So yeah, that's just has to do with the evolution of people and technology, and us just having more at our fingertips when it comes to information.
Agreed. That's pretty much it. Yeah, with the only other thing is with the fire divination, I wasn't aware of doing it through comets. I wonder what they mean by that. I would think that comets would probably fall under like astrology and that sort of a thing. Um, I don't. Is it like a crashed comet, or is it through it just hurling through the sky? They I guess it's direction or how fast it's going or whatever. They might determine something. It doesn't really go into it, at least from what I can see.
Yeah, who knows? Like, possibly correlates with the part of the sky that they saw the comet in, the color of it maybe, or the direction it went, just like with a bird. And so who knows? That is not something that I could really speak on, but it is interesting for sure.
Yeah, that's pretty much all that I had for chapter 57. Not sure if you wanted to add anything else to that.
No, the more interesting practical tip that I got from that is the lead and the wax going to water, which is a great technique that I might go ahead and use one of these days. I really like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like. I for sure will most likely use that one of these days. But yeah, no. Let's go ahead and continue on to what, 58?
Yes, chapter 58.
All right. I'll probably go halfway through this, and then I'll let you continue. So, of the reviving of the dead, and of sleeping and wanting victuals many years together. Victual, I don't know what victuals are.
Mine says of reviving the dead, sleeping and fasting for a long time.
Okay then. All right. The Arabian philosophers agree that some men may elevate themselves above the powers of their body and above their sensitive powers, and those being surmounted, they receive into themselves by the perfection of the heavens and the celestial intelligence a divine vigor. Seeing therefore that all the souls of men are perpetual, and also that all the spirits obey the perfect souls, magicians think that perfect men may, by the powers of their soul, repair their dying bodies with other inferior souls, newly separated, and inspire them again. As a weasel that is killed is made alive again by the breath and cry of his dam. And as lions make alive their dead whelps by breathing upon them. And because, as they say, all like things, being applied to their like, are made of the same natures, and also every patient, subject, and thing that receives into itself the act of any agent is endowed with the nature of that agent and made co-natural with it. Hence, they think that to this vivification, or making alive, certain herbs and magical confections, such as they say are made of the ashes of the phoenix and the cast skin of a snake, do much conduce, which indeed to many may seem fabulous and to some impossible, unless it could be accounted approved by an historical faith. For we read of some that have been drowned in water, others cast into the fire or put upon the fire, others slain in war, and others otherwise tried, and all these after a few days were alive again. As Pliny testifies in Aviola, a man pertaining to the consul of El Lamia, Calenus, Tubero, and Corfidius, and Gabinus, and many others. Also we read that Aesop the tale maker, Tyndareus, Hercules, and Palissy, the sons of Jupiter, and Thalia, being dead, were raised to life again. Also that many were, by physicians and magicians, raised from death again, as the historians relate to Asclepius. And we have above mentioned out of Euba and Xanthus and Philostratus concerning Tilo and certain Arabian and Apollonius the Tyanean. Also we read that Glaucus, a certain man that was dead, whom they say beyond all expectation, the physicians coming to see it, the herb dragon wort restored to life. Some say that he revived by the putting into his body a medicine made of honey, whence the proverb Glaucus was raised from death by taking honey into his body. Apuleius, also relating the manner of these kinds of restoring to life, says of Zakla, the Egyptian prophet, the prophet being favorable laid a certain herb upon the mouth of the body of a young man being dead, and another upon his breast. Then, turning toward the east, or rising of the propitious sun, he prayed silently, a great assembly of people striving to see it, when, in the first place, the breast of the dead man did heave, then makes a beating in his veins, then his body filled with breath, after which the carcass arises and the young man speaks. If these things are true, the dying souls must, sometimes lying hid in their bodies, be oppressed with vehement ecstasy, and be freed from all bodily action, so that the life, sense, and motion forsake the body, and also that the man is not yet truly dead, but lies astenied and dead, as it were, for a certain time. And this is often found that in times of pestilence, many that are carried for dead to the graves to be buried, revive again. The same also has often befell women by reason of fits of the mother. And Rabbi Moises, out of the book of Galen, which Petrarchia translated, makes mention of a man who was suffocated for 6 days, and did neither eat nor drink, and his arteries became hard. And it is said in the same book that a certain man, being filled with water, lost the pulse of his whole body, so that the heart was not perceived to move, and he lay like a dead man. Also, it is said that a man, by reason of a fall from a high place, or a great noise, or long staying under the water, may fall into a swoon, which may continue 48 hours, and so may lay as if he were dead, his face being very green. And in the same place there is mention made of a man that buried a man that seemed to be dead 72 hours after his seeming decease, and so killed him because he buried him alive. And there are given signs whereby it may be known who are alive, although they may seem to be dead, and indeed will die, unless there be some means used to recover them, as phlebotomy, or some other cure, and these are such as very seldom happen. This is the manner by which we understand magicians and physicians do raise dead men to life, as they that were tried by the stinging of serpents were by the nation of the Marsi and the Scilly restored to life. We may conceive that such kind of ecstasies may continue a long time, although a man be not truly dead, as it is in dormice and crocodiles and many other serpents, which sleep all winter, and are in such a dead sleep that they can scarce be awakened with fire. And I have often seen a dormouse dissected and continue immovable, as if she were dead, until she was boiled, and then presently in boiling the water the dissected members did show life. And although it be hard to believe, we read in some approved historians that some men have slept for many years together, and in the time of sleep until they awaked, there was no alteration in them so as to make them seem older. The same Pliny testifies of a certain boy whom he says being wearied with heat and his journey slept 57 years in a cave. We read also that Epimenides Nocius slept 57 years in a cave. Hence the proverb arose to outsleep Epimenides, quote unquote. Damascus tells that in his time a certain countryman in Germany, being wearied, slept for the space of a whole autumn and the winter following, under a heap of hay until the summer, when the hay began to be eaten up. Then he found awakened as a man half dead and out of his wits. You want to continue from there?
Yeah. It is confirmed, it is the confirmed opinion of the ecclesiastical histories of the seven sleepers who slept for 196 years. In Norway, there is a cave in a lofty seashore, as Paul the deacon and Methodius the martyr write. 7 sleeping men lay sleeping for a long time without any corruption, and often people assembled to strike them. Finally, neighbors set a penalty so that they would stop hurting them. Moreover, Xenocrates, who among philosophers is of no small reputation, thought that this long sleep was a certain natural penalty, to which that certain souls were obliged by eternity to be appointed. M. Damascenius himself proved that there are many possible reasons why that is entirely natural and should not be thought absurd, because with some there are certain agreements, such as many being without food and drink, do not make excrement, are without decay and corruption, and are able to sleep for many months. Whether this may happen from a person accidentally drinking some poison, contracting a sleep-inducing sickness, experiencing a certain deep fear, or similar causes, men sometimes sleep many days, years, or months according to the intention or remission of the power of their soul. Physicians say that with antidotes taken in small portions, one can bear a long fasting. As, for example, Elias, who was given a certain food from an angel and could walk and fast from the power of that food for 40 days. Ioannes Bocatius said that in his time there was a man in Venice who each year fasted without food for 40 days. What is more wonderful, at that same time in Lower Germany was a woman who did not accept food for 30 years. This may seem incredible to us, but it is confirmed by recent things, a miracle in our age. Brother Nicholas the Saxon from the Helvetii nation lived without any food in the wilderness for 22 years before he died. Also, wonderful is a certain man named Philinius mentioned by Theophrastus, who had nothing to drink or eat except milk. There are serious authorities, as we read, who describe certain herbs of Sparta with which the Scythians could endure for 12 days without food or drink if they only but taste it or hold it in their mouth. So that is the end of chapter 58. And before we go any further, there's a couple questions here. So I guess because we were talking about reviving the dead and stuff like that, someone asked, what are our opinions on the state of a spirit after death? So for me, since I'm a hermeticist, the goal is to get back to God. But if you don't know how to do that, the soul would naturally attempt to do that, and if it fails, it would just wander. It would either wander or it would return to Earth through the process of reincarnation. So that's what I believe is what would happen to the spirit after passing.
I don't know. Along the same thing of trying to reincorporate itself. I don't know if it's some type of pull or if it's some type of if it happens naturally or if it happens through some type of like achievement. You know, I don't know. But yeah, I believe there's a source that we long to join with. But then at the same time, as we all know, with the lore and mythos of ghosts, that sometimes spirits get trapped here. So to understand the dynamics of the spirit and what it goes through after death, I can't tell you what I believe is pretty much along the same things that that Joe just said. You know, maybe go, reincarnation. I don't know if reincarnates as another human or an animal. Different dimension. I don't know. But it's for sure interesting. I don't really have any made up beliefs. It's kind of nebulous.
Appreciate the honesty. I hope that answers your question, Butterfly Night Sky. I don't know what to call you. I just see a butterfly emoji in the night sky, so I don't know what your name is. Was Asclepius a student of Hermes? Yes, he was his one of his not students, but like underlings, like acolyte. Well, I guess student is a proper term. So yeah. Hey Sid, welcome to the stream. What's up? All right. So, how do you feel about this reviving of the dead thing? What do you think about that? Despite some of the sources that they provide here, what do you think about this reviving of the dead with these herbs and the honey and all of that stuff?
Well, it's kind of it's a known thing amongst the folklore of like Voodoo, of like zombies and things like that, of people being brought back. Have you ever seen a Serpent in the Rainbow?
Yeah, from the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah. So that has to do with Haitian Voodoo and the zombie, the whole zombie lore behind that. Also, this kind of reminds me of like Romeo and Juliet, where I think she takes the poison, right? And then comes back to life after he takes the poison to actually die, and then so that it kind of reminds me of that, of like looking dead but not being dead. It it obviously there what this is talking about. Some people were in comas, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it even said that the guy who woke up from the hay was not right in his mind, so obviously suffers some brain damage or something. Like who knows, that something that we know of today is quite common. that they looked at as something as being dead and coming back to life. But it was a normal superstition, back then, of having like little jingles, like little bells and strings to pull the bells being buried and being
Yeah.
so they could like if they happen to wake up, they could ring the bell and so that wasn't too far out of the world. It's still a fear we have till this day, of being buried alive on accident.
Yeah.
Um, and there's some tales that survive, and so I think the reviving the dead thing, other than when it comes to like some type of like the lore within like the voodoo and zombies. I think a lot of what we're talking about here is kind of talking about like comas
Yeah.
or comatose. Um, but
Yeah.
that yeah, I don't doubt that there are some concoctions that can be made to put people down and restore them back to life with other things. So I don't know of them, but it's not out of the world of possibility.
Yeah, no, I'm of the same mind. That's exactly where I was going. That I don't think many, if not any, of these people were actually like clinically dead, like no brain activity, heart stopped. I think what was going on was either they were in a coma or they were near death, right? They took a poison or someone poisoned them or something to the point where their heart rate was really, really slow and really, really faint, right? And they were right at that point of death. And then there's an herb or an herbal mixture or concoction that can bring you, back from that point. And then it would seem like you were brought back from the dead. Or if they were under a coma, I'm sure there's something out there that might be able to bring you out of a coma. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that. And I'm sorry to say, even with the voodoo lore and things like that, when I talk to my friends that are in voodoo and ask them about this stuff, they even say that they've never come across it themselves. They've heard, right? It's always I've heard. This house over here. I heard about the house out in Louisiana. Okay, but did you see it for type of a thing? So I've yet to meet anybody who's actually seen a zombie created through the powder process and all that other stuff. But the stories are certainly plentiful. But yeah, I've not come across anyone who's actually seen it. So, but that's all that I have to say about the dead and all of that. But now the fasting and all of that part, the fasting and not eating for that long. Strange Girl Bone Collector pretty much has the same question that I was going to ask you. If you actually, believe that, this woman went 22 years in the wilderness without eating any food, and so went 30 years before he died, in the jungle without eating anything. What do you think about that?
No, that's not how our biology works. Like,
Yeah.
I find that very hard to believe. It's obviously a story. I think Agrippa sometimes gets very hopeful with the things he puts down. Um, no matter how many sources he has, there's some things that he writes that you're like, yeah, there's no way that has happened.
Yeah.
In a world full of magic and where understanding science and things is still somewhat kind of, you know, um, beyond them, it's easy to sometimes believe stuff like that, I'm sure. But nowadays, yeah, looking at stories like that, yeah, that's fantasy.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. There is no way. And I mean, we even see people today who say those types of things, that they, fast for for 50 days and things like that. They don't eat anything and only drink water and stuff like that. And then a year or two later they're getting exposed, for someone hacked their email and found their, you know their HelloFresh receipts or something like that. So it's like, you know, yeah, no, that's certainly not a thing. Um, oh, thank you for the gifts, Daughter of the King. Sorry I didn't see them when you initially sent them. I was probably head down reading through the text, but thank you for those gifts. Thank you for the big love and the roses. Thank you. Appreciate that. I believe the divine Pymander tells us the spirit of a man cannot reincarnate into a lesser best. By best, did you mean being or something like that? But yeah, I don't. We don't espouse that you know, humans can become animals or rocks or plants or anything like that through the reincarnation process, like they do in the East, or at least some Eastern systems do. We don't agree with that. Human souls are unique in our divine connection and our divine spark back to God. Plants and animals and rocks and things don't have that. So I certainly do agree with that. Your spirit box needs attuned. I'm not sure what that means, Sid. What does that mean? Somebody has some interference? I know we were having issues last week with interference, but I don't hear any interference this week. Let me read through this, see if anybody else has any interference. Okay, no, I guess it's gone. There was only 2 mentions of it, and it doesn't seem to be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, I guess my little stand that I put it on messes with it. Probably the magnet in it that works with the like charging of it, I guess. Possibly.
Oh. Hmm.
I took it off.
Yeah, I don't hear anything this time, so.
All right. Cool.
All right. I have schizophrenia, and Vod talks to me through ideas and delusions of reference. Who is Vod? Or did you just mean God and you misspelled God? But because the G and the V are kind of close to each other, so. But if you have schizophrenia, I think that is the cause of whatever you're thinking is God. Let's see. Thank you, Daughter of the King. Thank you. Okay, everyone's saying that it was coming from your end, but it seems to be good now. Okay, yeah, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it has to be that damn phone charger stand that I put it on. It's at first when we started doing this, I used to do it all the time, but it didn't do it. But now I guess there's something going on with it. But whatever, I took it off.
No worries. Cool. Hey, Venom. Oh, you were in NOLA too? Nice, dude. I hope you had a good time. Hope you had a fun time down there. I was there 2 weeks ago. All right. Unless you have anything else, Quinn, or anything in your side of the chat that you want to read, we can move on to chapter 59.
Okay. So
It's pretty small. I mean, one person can take this. So do you want me to take it, or do you want to tackle it?
I'll just go ahead and take care of this, and then you can begin with the next one.
Okay.
Of divination by dreams. There is also a certain kind of divination by dreams, which is confirmed by the traditions of philosophers, the authorities of divines, and the examples of histories and by daily experience. A dream I call here not vain dreams or idle imaginations, for those are vain and have no divination in them, but arise from the remains of watchings and disturbance of the body. For as the mind is taken up about and wearied with cares, it suggests itself to him that is asleep. I call that a true dream here, which is caused by the celestial influences in the fantastic spirit, mind, or body being all well disposed. I find it interesting right here that he is actually making a discernment between dreams influenced by our minds and dreams influenced by outside sources. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So the rule of interpreting these is found amongst astrologers in that part which is wrote concerning questions. But yet that is not sufficient, because these kinds of dreams come by use to diverse men after a diverse manner, and according to the diverse quality and disposition of the fantastic spirit. Wherefore, there cannot be given one common rule to all for the interpretation of dreams. But according to the doctrine of senescence, seeing there are the same accidents to things, and like befalls like. So he which has often fallen upon the same visible thing has assigned to himself the same opinion, passion, fortune, action, event, and as Aristotle says, the memory is confirmed by sense. And by keeping in memory the same thing, knowledge is obtained, as also by the knowledge of many experiences, by little and little arts and sciences are thus obtained. After the same account, you must conceive of dreams. When Synesius commands that everyone should observe his dreams and their events, and such like rules, to commit to memory all things that are seen, and accidents that befall, as well in sleep as in watching, and with a diligent observation consider with himself the rules by which these are to be examined. For by this means shall a diviner be able, by little and little, to interpret his dreams, if so be nothing slip out of his memory. Now dreams are more efficacious when the moon overruns that sign which was in the 9th number of the nativity, or revolution of that year, or in the 9th sign from the sign of perfection. For it is a most true and certain divination, neither does it proceed from nature or human arts, but from purified minds by divine inspiration. Now we shall discuss and examine prophesying in oracles.
Nice. Yeah, I am with you. I like that he made the distinction that dreams or actual divination, through dreams, or what he in my book here says are phantasms and just sleepless visions that are empty and are not divinations, but instead arise from the remnants of wakefulness or disturbances of the body. I do like that you pointed that out, because a lot of people seem to think that anytime that they have any kind of, if they see anything while they're sleeping, there must be a spiritual or magical reason behind it. So I'm glad that was pointed out. The only other, this was a really short chapter, not much really here. But the only other thing that I do like is the emphasis, even if it's not from Agrippa originally, it's from Synesius, but the emphasis on writing your dreams down, right? It specifically says to take note of them, so that way you can remember them and commit them to your memory, and that will allow your interpretation skill to grow, because you remember your dreams, you write them down, and you are able to interpret those auguries, those signs. So I do like that. I'm not too familiar with the 9th sign of the nativity. I don't really know what that is. In my edition here, it says that it's a profection, and that a profection is the advancing of one sign or a house per year in the natal chart. So a solar revolution, or is called a solar return, is a chart drawn up for when the sun is the same degree in a certain year as its degree in a particular year of the natal chart. But as everyone who is familiar with my content knows, I'm not proficient at astrology at all, so I don't know what any of that means. So I don't really have anything to comment on that part, because I'm not familiar with astrology to that level. But yeah, that's pretty much all that I have for this chapter.
On mine, it says 9th number, as in the 9th house, the house of science and religion. So it would be in your nativity, so it would be your natal chart.
Mm-hmm.
So when the moon overruns the sign in which which was in the ninth number of the nativity. Huh. Has to do with the ninth house of your natal chart and the sign that was in the ninth house. Or would it be the planet? No, the moon is the planet. And I guess there has to be a synchronization of the the zodiacal sign that was in that ninth house when you were born, and the moon overruns that. So that
Okay.
I think that would I don't know how long it takes for that type of stuff to happen. Um, but I'm sure it doesn't happen often. Yeah, but I'm not an astrologer, same as you. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
was
I'm
my
not. I'm not.
that was my attempt at understanding it.
Hey, that is what we're here for. So not a problem. Not a problem. Um, I need to send you a video of this one kid with schizophrenia who made me think he can see spirits. Okay, yeah. Send me the video. All genius contains madness within it. I don't disagree. Are you guys just really reading? Why not slap up a PowerPoint? Well, this is mobile, so that would not be possible mobile. TikTok doesn't allow you to use other apps while you're live. It'll make the screen black and everything like that, so that's certainly not possible. There's no way to do a PowerPoint from mobile. And TikTok from desktop, you have to be approved for that. Not everybody is approved for it. I am, but I don't believe Quinn is able to use TikTok for desktop. And even so, there's a lot of issues with that. Like whenever I go live from the desktop and I'm plugged directly into the router, it f's up like every like 2 minutes. It'll disconnect, and it's certainly not OBS or Streamlabs or something like that. It's still a work in progress. So slapping up a PowerPoint is not possible. But thank you for the suggestion. I've been writing mine down for 23 years. Your dreams? You should. Good. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Natal chart. So we know what the natal chart is. We're just not sure what the ninth sign of the nativity, what that means. Ninth house placement change equals a mental shift. Okay, interesting. Thank you for that. I was not aware of that. Interesting. All right. Anything else you wanna add to chapter 59 before we move on to Soissons?
No. Go ahead. Let's do it.
All right, we're gonna move on to chapter 60 of frenzy and divinations that happen when awake, of the power of the melancholy humor, which sometimes also allures daemons in the human body. Moreover, divinations not only happen when sleeping, but sometimes while awake. A relaxed mind is stimulated by divinatory impulses. Aristotle spoke of frenzy, which comes from melancholic humors, as related to this kind of divination, as he teaches in the treatise on divination, saying, ones who have melancholy because of their vehemence are far better at conjecture, quicken their imaginings, and most easily receive impressions from the celestials. Excuse me. And in problems, he said that the Sibyls, the Bachides, Niceratus from Syracuse, and Amun were natural diviners and poets because of their melancholic complexion. Therefore, the cause of frenzy, if it is from within the human body, is a melancholic humor. Indeed, this is not what they call black bile, which, according to natural philosophers and physicians, is an impetus for perverse and horrible things, inducing more than madness, but also enticing evil daemons to possess human bodies. Therefore, it should be understood that here we are using the term melancholic humor to refer to a natural substance called white bile rather than black bile. Indeed, this white bile, when kindled and burning, stirs up frenzy and brings to us knowledge and divination. This process is especially helped by the influence of some celestial, especially Saturn, who is cold and dry, just like a melancholic humor, and has a daily influence on the melancholic person, increasing and preserving those tendencies. Additionally, since Saturn is the author of secret contemplations and separation from all public business and the highest planet, his soul revokes outward offices and is always secret. He rises from below, pulls himself higher, and grants a knowledge and predictions of the future. This is what Aristotle intended in his book Problems, saying of melancholy, some are made as if divine, predicting the future, and some are made poets. He also said that all men in any excellent science very much stand out as melancholic. Also, Democritus and Plato confirmed, saying that there are some melancholics who have such excellent genius that they were seen as divine rather than men. Thus, many melancholics at first stand out as undeveloped, inept, and insane. As they say, Hesiod, Ion, Tynnichus of Chalcis, Homer, and Lucretius were often suddenly seized by a frenzy, and as poets, retreated and sang certain wonderful and divine things, which they themselves scarcely understood. Of this, the divine Plato said in Ion, many prophets, after their attack of frenzy, has relaxed. But first, let me start over. Many prophets, after their attack of frenzy has relaxed, do not fully understand what they write. Yet each art is treated correctly in frenzy, because each artist, by reading them, decides this. Additionally, we read that the command of the melancholic humor is so great that the force of celestial daemons is also sometimes seized into the human body. These daemons prompt and inspire men to rave and to declare many wonderful things, as mentioned by the ancients. It is thought that this happens under a threefold difference, according to a threefold apprehension of the soul. That is, imaginative, rational, and mental. Therefore, they say, when the soul is impelled by a melancholic humor, with nothing crossing the bounds of the body and the chains of the members, it is entirely transferred to the imagination. It suddenly becomes a home for inferior daemons, from whom often wonderful manual skills are received. Thus, we see the most undeveloped of any man suddenly become an exceptional painter, an architect, or otherwise the professor of some skill without training. And you can take over from there.
Some skill without training. Can you read the last line?
Yeah, thus we see the most undeveloped of any man suddenly become an exceptional painter, an architect, or otherwise the professor of some skill without training.
Okay. But when these kinds of spirits portend to us future things, they show those things which belong to the disturbing of the elements and changes of time, as rain, tempests, inundations, earthquakes, slaughter, great mortality, famine, and the like. As we read in Aulus Gellius, that his priest Cornelius Patarus did at the time when Caesar and Pompey were to fight in Thessalia, being taken with the madness, foretell the time, order, and issue of the battle. But when the mind is turned wholly into reason, it becomes a receptacle for middle world spirits. Hence, it obtains the knowledge and understanding of natural and human things. So we see that a man sometimes does, on a sudden, become a philosopher, physician, or an excellent orator, and foretells mutations of kingdoms and restitutions of ages, and such things as belong to them, as the Sibyl did to the Romans. But when the mind is wholly elevated into the understanding, then it becomes a receptacle of sublime spirits, and learns of them the secrets of divine things, as the law of God and the orders of angels, and such things as belong to the knowledge of things eternal and salvation of souls. It foresees things which are appointed by God's special predestination, and future prodigies or miracles, the prophet to come, and the changing of the law. So the Sibyl prophesied of Christ a long time before his coming. So Virgil, understanding that Christ was at hand and remembering what the Sibyl Cumasa had said, saying thus to Pollio, "Last times are come, Cumoia's prophecy, now from high heaven springs a new progeny, and time's great order now again is born. The maid returns, Saturnian realms return." And a little after, intimating that original sin shall be of no effect, he says, "If any prince of our old vice remained, by three their void, in fear shall leave the land. He a god's life shall take, with God shall see, mixed heroes in himself their object be, rule with paternal power the appeased earth he shall." Then he adds, "And thence the fall of the serpent, and the poison of the tree of death, or of the knowledge of good and evil, shall be nulled, saying, the serpent shall, and the deceitful herb of venom fall." Yet he intimates that some sparks of original sin shall remain when he says, "Some steps of ancient fraud shall yet be found." And at last, with a most great hyperbole, cries out to his child, as the offspring of God, adoring him in these words, "Dear race of gods, great stock of Jupiter, behold the world shakes on its ponderous axe. Sea earth in heaven's immense and ocean tracks. How all things at the approaching age rejoice! Oh, that my life would last so long in voice, as would suffice thy actions to rehearse." There are also some prognostics which are in the middle betwixt natural and supernatural divination, as in those who are near to death and being awakened with old age do sometimes foresee things to come, because, as says Plato, by how much the more men are less hindered by their sense, so much more accurately they understand, and because they are nearer to the place whither they must go, and their bonds being, as it were, a little loose, seeing they are no more subject to the body, easily perceive the light of divine revelation.
All right. And that concludes chapter 60. So, what are your thoughts here?
It's obviously talking about becoming a medium during states where you somewhat lose your senses to a certain extent, which is kind of fitting for the person who was talking about schizophrenia, and which it. I have kind of an unpopular approach to that, to things like that. I don't like to get into it too much, but obviously it's really just talking about being a receptacle for spirits. And even going into frenzy and into trance states and being a medium during certain states. So yeah, I don't really have too much to say about it. The whole
I'm right there on the same page. I was going to say, to me, this chapter is pretty much just talking about getting into an altered state of consciousness. Now, it seems to be speaking about a specific one, which is the frenzy, which we really don't see people in a modern context getting into what we would call frenzy, and even in a historical context. Outside of this, the only time I ever hear anyone talking about frenzy is when it's like when it's in a shamanic perspective, and they're usually talking about shape-shifting or something along those lines. It's not just for divination or anything like that. There's actual work being done when practitioners go into frenzies. But yeah, it just seems to be just talking about going into an altered state of consciousness. Now, The part about being melancholic and how a lot of geniuses, a lot of artistic people are known to be melancholic. I mean, it does seem to be that way. I mean, we always hear, every time a celebrity ends up unaliving themselves, we always find out that it was because they were going through some super deep dark thing that only they could understand, only they were dealing with, and they tried to tell us in their art and all sort of stuff, and nobody listened, and you know how it goes every time a singer or a rock star or
Yeah.
a TV host or whatever passes. Um, but I don't know if I would always call it melancholy, but there is something there. I mean, you even when you look at artists like Picasso and stuff like that, he was an alcoholic, and he, the only time he did the Picasso type art is when he was under the influence. I mean, like it, or for a modern context, um, the rapper Eminem. When he's not on the pills and the vodka, it's not the same as when he's being Slim Shady. It's not like we don't get the same
Yeah.
level of creativity.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I don't know what's behind that. I don't know if I would call that melancholy. I'm not an expert, but there is something going on there, and it
Yeah.
seems like Agrippa is touching on it and seems to title it melancholy. Um, so that's very interesting. But that's pretty much all that I have to say
Yeah.
about chapter 60.
Is pretty consistent when it comes to like the great artists and poets of our times that there's usually you know um some type of spiritual war they're fighting within. So it's something that remains consistent. Not every single artist, of course, but it is something that you can see a pattern to.
Yeah,
Um, I guess it just comes down to some type of spiritual sensitivity. That they're so sensitive they're able to take on things, but also living in this modern world, they're too sensitive for that. And then they just can't deal. Delectably Deviant asked if someone is developing symptoms of schizophrenia, could it be spirit influence? Um, like I
hmm.
said, that's a because I'm sure that Joe knows that in certain like villages where shamanism is an actual thing,
Hmm.
that people who show these types of illnesses are often seen to be um, gifted to a certain extent with shamanic abilities.
Right.
But I don't want to push it for people to think like, oh, I'm schizophrenic, so I'm a shaman. Well, let's remember that this is in a certain context of environment and culture. That's not the person with schizophrenia is going to be treated much differently from the village that actually looks at this differently than living in the modern world where you have to pay bills and rent and go to work.
Right.
Uh, it's totally different context here. And I don't want, it doesn't, oh, well, I could talk to spirits, so I don't want to take the medicine. Well, no, that's not at all what I am pushing here. But I do believe that yes, there even when it comes to mental illnesses, it's no matter what magic and spirituality and mysticism and metaphysics permeate everything. So that doesn't all of a sudden mean that everything like that doesn't make that doesn't nullify um, any type of mental issues. There's still some type of connection there, but it just happens we live in a modern society that it's not. There's no type of way to deal with it in a holistic way. You know,
Mhm.
we live in a modern world, so you know it's dealt with in modern ways. It might be different if you were living in a village off somewhere, but that's not, you know, that's not the case.
Agreed. Also, I think it should be said that in these uh, in these shamanic cultures where someone might be displaying, you know, schizophrenic tendencies and behaviors and things like that, and they're also claiming to be able to talk to spirits and things like that. It's not just like people just believe them, right? There's a process and a protocol that they go through to ensure that they actually are receiving visions or that they actually are contacting spirits. It's just not, the local crazy guy just runs into the village and goes, "Hey guys, I know I'm crazy, but I can also talk to spirits." And they go, "Oh, well, thanks for letting us know. You're now our new shaman." They don't do that.
Yeah.
There's an actual process that they go through to validate and verify that this person is actually having visions and isn't, trying to take them for a ride. So,
Mhm.
um, my mom doesn't remember where I was born, but nuns delivered me, no hospital. I used to think being delivered by nuns cursed me. Oh, really? Wow. Interesting. I mean, I don't know if they cursed you or anything like that. Um, uh, Anathema Maranatha has quite a few cases of clergy and things like that placing curses on people, even when they're supposed to be doing blessings. They're doing a twofold sort of a thing. So I mean, I don't know since I wasn't there if they did curse you, but simply being delivered by nuns in and of itself doesn't mean that you were cursed or anything along those lines. Thanks for all the gifts, guys. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for the likes. Appreciate that. We're getting this out to more people. And welcome into the people who are just piling in here. Welcome to the reading. These readings help my mental state. Well, I'm glad we're able to help you. I'm glad we're able to help. Most people hide it because you get shamed for it or viewed as lesser. Unfortunately, that's true, Sid. And the good news is that that's changing, right? We're actually starting to have conversations now about mental health. So those stigmas are certainly changing. But yeah, it does suck that, the geniuses of old would have felt like they had to go through these things alone. So, all right, we got about 12 minutes or so here. Did you want to move into chapter 61, or do you want to save that for next week and just go into the Q&A?
Yeah, let's just go ahead and we could save it. I don't think it'll probably take, what do you think? It'll take more than 12 minutes, or let's take less.
Um, I mean, it's roughly 5 or 6 pages. Um, yeah, I think we should probably wait till next week.
Yeah.
That would probably be the best. Wait until next week. We can go ahead and start the Q&A process. So next week, guys, we'll be picking up on chapter 61, which is going to be on the forming of man, of the outer and inner senses, of the mind, of the threefold appetite of the soul, and the passion of the will. So that will be where we pick up for the reading next week. So now we're going to move into the Q&A section of the live stream. So if you have any questions, whether it's about what we just read, or it's about general occultism, esotericism, or mysticism, please feel free to ask, and we will both do our best to provide an answer.
Good to look at you, Deviant.
Sorry about
Always
that.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Hey, Professor Mystic, what's up? How are you? But frenzied, I'm curious if that's more like mania or an ecstatic state. It would be an ecstatic state, but it would be a specific kind of ecstatic state. There are many different ecstatic states, and they all don't produce the same, excuse me, the same kind of emotional effects in the practitioner as other states would. Um, I guess you could look at frenzy as a as sort of a manic sort of a state. Um, but that would indicate, I don't know. I feel like mania is sort of like an indication of like happiness and elation and feelings that are good, and whereas dementia, or not, and I don't mean that like you forget, I mean demented, um is, it gives off the air of the opposite. And I don't know if I agree that mania would be like the super positive, even though you're still nuts and you're still crazy. Like the like you're overly happy, and um, that scene from The Witch, if anybody remembers The Witch, where the little boy comes home from the witch's house, and he goes into that manic state where he begins to blaspheme and things like, and he like undresses himself, and he like but he's not angry, he's not upset, he's not sad, he's actually very, he's, I mean, his eyes are closed, but he seems to be very happy. Of course, we know it's a trick, and he's, but it seems he's very happy while he's doing it, and he's in this elated state. And I don't think that's an accurate reflection of mania. But I'm not a doctor, so maybe that's a super accurate. I don't know, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, I think with frenzy, like back in the day, it's like going into a frenzy, like ecstatic with like divine love, and like when like nuns or like religious people would be praying and going into like a frenzy, just frenzied with the love of God and things like that. Like you will see is very much a technique used in grimoire magic of just prayer after prayer after prayer. You make yourself crazy with prayer and love for God and things like that. I was going somewhere else with it, but yeah, that's what I see as frenzy. Um, yeah, just going crazy, going God crazy.
That's crazy. The elites are waging war like World War III. Globalists, we will own nothing and be nothing and be sad AF. Well, I'm sorry that that's going to happen. Some people do, but white girls in American suburbs do not. Um, I agree. I agree.
What?
I'm not claiming to be a genius, but I am slightly crazy. Well then, I think you might be a genius. Thank you guys. No, Sid, thank you. Thank you, Sid. It's always lovely having you in the chat. What's up, Issa? What's going on? Quinn, Benji's asking, how's the operation going?
Just I'm waiting for the waxing moon. Just been doing like some practicing and stuff like that with the protocol and the ritual and everything. I'm redoing the wax layman that I made. I had some more beeswax scraps that I ended up melting down with the original one that I made so I can make it bigger because it was too small to have all the divine names that go onto it. So I made that today. It was Sunday, so I made that again today, melted it down. I consecrated and exercised the candle scraps today over my Michael altar. But yeah, just a lot of experimenting, a lot of getting things in order because last time I did it, it was during a waning moon, and it's not really like advised to do anything that has to do with conjuration or evocation during a waning moon.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, it usually has to do with a waxing moon. You got to kind of look at like the moon as it's kind of it collects the image. It's the image storehouse, as like the Golden Dawn like to say it, and it collects our consciousness and the collective consciousness and all of the powers of the planets kind of go. The moon filters it out, so that's why it has to be, you know, building. It has to be building and waxing for things like that to really work. Other than if you're trying to do like baneful workings and things like that. So, waiting for the waxing moon to really get going on it. But yeah, um, it's going great. Just been practicing scrying through the mirror and the crystal lately, and by practicing meaning learning how to just sit there and focus and stay quiet and meditate. That's the hardest part about it, for sure.
Yeah. Agreed. I hope that answers your question, Benji.
What is Michael prayer? Daily devotional and prayers. Their name is daily devotional and prayers. What is Michael prayer? I know that they have like a Catholic prayer for Michael. Um, because they do for like Gabriel as well, but I don't know what his prayer is exactly. It's usually on the back of the novena candles that you'll find with the
I
Michael.
think I might have it. Yeah, I got it right here. Well, it's there's several here. I've got the revocation of Saint Michael the Archangel, the prayer to Saint Michael, the prayer to the glorious Archangel Saint Michael, the spell of Saint Michael, and it looks like that's it. And these are from the book Helping Yourself with Selected Prayers.
Awesome. That's a very good. I don't have that book, but that is the type of book that I would see and automatically purchase.
Yeah, I got these are popular in like hoodoo shops and
Oh, I bet
things like that.
Botanicas and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my type of. That's like those are the books that are like extremely practical for actual practitioners.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. There's no theory. There's no. It's just right. It just right to the work.
Yeah.
What were you reading from, please? It's so interesting. We were reading from the three books of occult philosophy. So we were reading from the three books of occult philosophy, and these are our two different versions. And we were reading from book one, and we stopped on chapter 61. So next week we will be starting chapter 61. So if you want to, the book Goth Luna Moth is very, very old. It's in the public domain, so you don't have to purchase it if you don't want to, and you don't have to worry about pirating it if you have any issues with that. It's so old that it's in the public domain, so you can just go online to like sacredtext.com or Esoteric Archives or something like that, and read it on the website for free without having to download anything, because some people don't like piracy and all that. So if you want to follow along without having to buy it, or without worrying about, a piracy, the moral issue, because you're not going to go to jail for that, but the moral issues, I guess, with piracy, some people have an issue with. So
Daily devotional and prayers. They're like, that's my TikTok name. I am Christian, but very flexible to learn. That is awesome. I love that. And I wish that the majority of Christians felt the same way. Uh, because you have more occultists that are willing to learn about Christianity than you have Christians learning about the occult.
Very true. Very true. Excuse me. Mania is high energy, but it can be anger or other. Okay, good. Okay, good. So I'm glad I was thinking correctly, because like every time mania is always depicted, it is always someone that is. I mean, I don't want to say that they're happy, but they're displaying what someone could interpret as happiness and and good elation and things like that. Um,
Yeah, like something like that you would see in someone who's in some type of religious cult or something like that.
yeah. Hypomania is a little more just being happy. Oh, okay, okay. Thank you. Psychology is a special interest. Well, then I am super glad you're here, Sid, because we wouldn't have been able to properly know anything about mania or hypomania if you weren't here. Like whirling dervishes. What's a whirling dervish?
Whirling dervish are like just the Sufis that will they spin and they like have their arms spread out and they will
Oh,
keep spinning. And there's like actual videos of like whirling dervishes doing that and like the lights flickering and things like that. Where they like build up so much like tension within the atmosphere that like stuff actually starts to happen. Um,
wow.
yeah. When it comes to like Sufism, and I was just actually watching a what religion for breakfast? I think it was,
Okay.
uh, or Let's Talk Religion. Religion. You know which YouTubes I'm talking about?
I know them both. Yeah, I was actually watching Let's Talk Religion this morning. I was watching his Christian mysticism video from like a month ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, either one of those. I think it was Let's Talk Religion. He's the one with the accent, right?
Um, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
He has one on Sufism, and they talk about. I don't know if he talks about the whirling dervishes. I think he might, but talks about like because the poet Rumi, I think Rumi, he was Sufi, I believe. But yeah, he goes into talking about that and how they see one of their big aspects of them is that they experience God through music, um, which is um, which is pretty spectacular.
Interesting. Yeah, when you were explaining the dervishes and what they do, that reminded me of Zangbeto. I don't know if you know what that is in Africa, um, where it's a community thing, and they record it. So you can go on YouTube or on TikTok, and you can find thousands of videos. And it's a community. I don't know if it's like a festival or just a show, whatever. Where a I don't know if they're a priest, but a practitioner will put on the this like a costume made of like hay, and they'll get into frenzy and get into a trance and things like that, and people will be around them with herbs and sacrifices and things like that, and waving it at them to give them energy and things like that, and they'll start to spin, and the thing will spin with them, and sometimes there is someone under there. You can see their feet or you see them put it on, but they'll do certain things where it'll like their feet will disappear and the thing will, keep moving, and there's, like you can't see, the feet under it, and it's like off the ground, and you're not able to see any like feet or any reason for it to still be held up. And then there are times where there's no one under it. Like they'll start it out where it's just flat on the ground. It's just lying flat. And then it'll stand up and it'll start dancing and do its spinny thing. Look it up. It's called Zong Beto. That reminds me, the whirling dervishes reminds me of that.
Hmm. Yeah, and that connects to the whole frenzy thing we were talking about for sure.
Yeah. There are many practices where going into ecstatic states helps connection to God. Yes, very true. Where's y'all spirits? What's that mean? I don't know what that means. Silency. I don't know how to say your name, but I don't know what that means. What do you mean? Where is our spirit? It's within our bodies right now. I'm sorry for your future loss, bro. I'm gonna check that book out also. Also, hi Rebel. What's up, Celestial? What book? The Help Yourself with Selected Prayers. Yeah, it's really good book, and it's really practical. It's like pretty much just prayers. I think maybe one or two of them might say something like light a candle or something, but there's no high ceremonialism. You know, you don't got to go to the top of the mountain at 9 p.m. and sacrifice a goat or anything like that. You just say the prayers. Um, so great info as always. I appreciate you greatly. Thank you very much, Goth Luna Moth. Do you have any YouTube videos or YouTubers you recommend for the occult? Not practically, no. I don't follow, or well, I might follow them, but I don't really watch their content of any other occultists. I pretty much, if it's occult related, I pretty much only watch videos for the academic side of things. I read books or talk to them if I need practical um, stuff. I don't really watch videos for occult info, so I wouldn't be able to help you out with occult practitioners, YouTubers. If you're looking for academic, I can give you a few, but practical, no.
Um, Glitch Bottle has a few interviews. There's so many interviews, but every now and then he'll have an interview on there. Well, they'll talk about their practice, and sometimes you'll hear
That's true.
some nice little pieces in there that are inspiring and kind of give you a little bit of a perspective on something you might be going through at that moment concerning your practice. So Glitch Bottle I found is pretty good for that. Like Esoterica, he's straight scholastic, a straight
Yeah.
scholarly approach to it, but still very helpful
Mm-hmm.
um, from the academic side. But yeah, Glitch Bottle has some cool stuff. And what magic is this? What magic is this? He often will interview people, and they will give some good insight into things that might advise or guide you in your practice to a certain extent, small or large.
There you go. I hope that answers your question, or Oresi. Excuse me. Do you think it's a good idea to mix and blend magical systems? So this is a twofold answer. So upfront, no. Upfront, I think and when I say upfront, I mean beginners, or a beginner in that system. You might have mastered, Tao of the Left, but if you know nothing of Grimtrad, you probably shouldn't mix it with something else. You should probably before you do anything like that, you should have a thorough understanding of the systems that you're trying to mix together. And there's a lack of that, especially amongst the beginner ranks. People just think that you can just take whatever you want from whatever you want and make whatever you want. And I mean, technically you can. No one is going to stop you. This isn't Saudi Arabia. I can't, off with your head as much as I would like to. I can't do anything like that. I can't stop you, but you're not going to get far doing something like that. So, in my opinion, it's best to have a thorough understanding of the systems that you're planning on mixing before doing anything like that, because you'd be surprised at how many systems are not compatible that people try to make compatible. I'm a big advocate of the statement that eclecticism is different than syncretism. And a lot of people confuse them or think that those words are interchangeable, and they are not. We have too many eclectic witches out here and not enough syncretic witches out here. Too many people just take whatever they want, which is essentially what the New Age is. They're just taking whatever they want, pouring it into a pot, stirring it together, and calling it their practice. And then if and they say it's, this is a 5-star meal. And then when you go, well, it's a meal, I guess, but it's nowhere near 5 stars. This is 1.5, 2 stars at best. They want to call you mean and, all this other stuff. And it's like, but you have a bowl of poop. Like, what am I supposed to call it? So, I mean, so if you're going to make systems, have a thorough understanding of those systems beforehand, and that way if those systems are even compatible to be mixed. So that's my response. I don't know, Quinn, if you have a different take on that.
Yeah, mixing systems, there's so many nooks and crannies when it comes to magical systems that, trying to blend them, there's going to be so many areas where it just kind of falls apart. Like, say for instance, trying to blend like something Golden Dawn and then like Solomonic, or like what do we mean by like blending? Are we using the Golden Dawn tool in Solomonic work? But then at the same time, a lot of Golden Dawn work that uses the Golden Dawn tools, their protocols are based on Grimoire protocols. And then so it's kind of already there. There's already the syncretism, like systems have already been blended as, to a certain extent. But then, like, say if we were going to, hey, I want to do Grimoire magic, but instead of praying to God and invoking the name of Jesus Christ, I want to do Nordic gods. That right there is, let me back up. So a lot of systems and traditions, they operate from a particular paradigm, and they're built off of a cosmology. So like, say for instance, Solomonic magic and a lot of other old is spirit based. It's based off of the agency of spirits. So when I want something to happen, I do it through the agency of spirits, and then they bring it about through our relationship, through offerings, whatever it may be. And then you might have another system that is based off of energy. You might have another one that's based off of will of the mind and intention. So that also plays a role in there. You might have someone that says that, hey, it doesn't matter what kind of wand you use, it's just the symbol of the wand. But yet when you look at, the system that I practice, no, the wand has a lot to do with it. The type of wand that it is, whether it's ebony wood or hazelwood, it matters a lot because there is a spirit within that wood. There's virtues within that wood. So that matters. So going back to, I want to put Nordic gods instead of the Christian names within this grimoire. Will it still work? Well, there's a certain sympathy between the spirits of that system and the protocols that have been laid beforehand. So, according to the cosmology that from which the system operates, it's not going to work because you're missing certain passcodes. You're missing a syntax of that language that is spoken between the operator and the interface between them and the spirits. So I think what I'm getting to is there's a certain sympathy between the elements of a system and what has been put into place. So trying to blend things, it's just not going to. It's like trying to put that square peg into the round hole. You know, it's just not going to fit because of a cosmology that's in place. Because of protocols that are in place that sympathize with a different structure. So there's certain things you can do that that meld well. I see many hoodoo practitioners that will use Solomonic methods and pentacles and so forth, because those methods and pentacles and other techniques they happen to be very universal, so they can be used. But then getting down to like trying to switch religions or trying to switch, these divine names with these pagan names, it tends to get a little messy, even though I know it happens and I know it can work. But that it works through people who experiment and they do it for themselves. I know Jake Stratton Kent would like to do that a lot. Use Greek god names rather than Christian names, and he found success with it. So it takes experimentation, but he was able to do that because he knew the system and he knew the structure of it. So
Yeah.
just like Joe pretty much said, you got to know it before you can actually substitute and modify it.
Well said. Very well said. Uh, in other forms of occultism, you guys dance too, not just ATR. Yes, a lot of systems have dancing. The Zangbeto or spirits. Yes, the ones that don't have anybody in them, but I've seen ones where it's more of just a show than anything else, and I've literally seen the guy, like, he was on camera, he wasn't hiding or anything, and he was wearing fur, like uh, uh I don't know what are they called back in, like, people who play RPG games. What are they called? The little arm Johns that you put on your arm,
Gauntlets.
greaves or something like
Oh,
that. I
Greaves.
don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, no, Greaves. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think yeah,
greaves.
it's like armor though.
Um, he wore a hay greaves. He wore a hay thing around his waist, a hay things around his feet, and a hay like hat thingy. And then he went over to the, I don't know what they call it, the hay structure, and he put that over him, and then he just started spinning and dancing, and then others would come in and join. But then the ones without someone in them, the ones that I've seen that were like lying flat on the ground, like flat, like there was no one under it, and then it would start and it would get up, and start going by itself. Yes, there's a allegedly a spirit within those. Yes. Yeah, it's to raise energy for rituals where we call the spirits. Indeed. Oh, I see those live sometimes. I always wonder where the feet are at. Oh, I've never seen them live. That would be awesome. If you ever see them live, Issa, if you could put it in the Discord and maybe like tag me so that way I can check it out. I don't think I've ever seen Zangbeto live. It's always been like a pre-recorded video.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. I've seen those before, and some of
Yeah.
them like floating up in the air, like pretty high up in the air too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do this in Sufism. We consider it a type of intoxication. Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier. The dwarfism, not dwarfism. Sorry.
Whirling dervish.
What's it called?
Whirling dervish. Whirling dervish.
Dervish. Dervish.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I did not mean to say dwarfism. I'm so sorry. Um, whirling dwarvishes. Um,
Whirling dervishes. Yeah.
dervishes. Uh, yes, we were talking about that earlier. Spiritual drunkenness is how my teachers refer to it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here.
I think the last
Thanks for sharing. You're welcome.
approach is connected to. I don't know. What were you talking about, Arya Serpa? If you're still in the chat. Uh,
Oh, Quinn, is is someone playing a video game on that TV behind you?
oh no, that's just the Roku. thing. It's just a whole
Oh,
back.
okay. Okay. I thought like your kid was playing like Mario or something, like the classic side scroll Mario.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Um, I'm interested in Hermeticism. Just confuses me a lot. I'm trying to catch these streams more. So it wouldn't be this stream that you would want uh for the Hermeticism. You want to come in on Wednesday nights. Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. When I go live with Alchemic Mason, we discuss the Hermetic texts and we read from them and things like that. So that might be more up your alley if you're interested in Hermeticism. I think finding actual useful spells on YouTube is hard. I find more so info than spell work, honestly. Um, so yeah, you shouldn't look for spells on YouTube. But I think somebody was asking about like occult um, practitioners. I'm started getting into all this esoteric stuff, and I think I'm low key going crazy. Why? Why do you think you're going crazy? Yeah, mixing can be very dangerous. Like mixing Ifa and Hellenic, for example, can go very wrong very quickly. Oh, I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah, and it wouldn't make sense if someone was trying to do that, then they have no type of knowledge of Ifa or any type of Hellenistic practice, ancient practice. If you were to know those, then you wouldn't even try to blend them.
Yeah,
But and I think that goes the same for a lot of different systems. Um, when you had the lodge systems like the Golden Dawn and they were trying to do that in the Victorian age, it was just a time where all of that was popular, like the Eastern practices and mystics and mysticism and spiritism. That was just huge and popular. So it was just the thing to do and trying to connect everything. But it really did put a bad look on the occult and
it did.
yeah, and the more you know about a system, the less you would want to take away anything from it.
Yeah,
Um, it's I grew up very like, oh, I don't want to be Christian. I want to go get the Satanic Bible, and then before you know it, I'm 36 years old, and I have no problem saying prayers and invoking Jesus Christ's name, for the grimoire work I do, and I see it differently than a Christian would for sure.
hmm
I think a lot of occultists do. I see it more as tools of power than something of exact faith, but yet at the same time, I do have a certain type of like awe. I'm in still awe towards a higher power, but it's just seen differently than your fundamentalist Christian would look at it. But
yeah.
um, it's you know blending traditions isn't something a true practitioner really looks to do.
Indeed. All right, guys, we got about 8 minutes left here. I'm quite a bit behind, so I'm going to skip up here. If I skip your question, please do ask it again. I'll do my best to get to as many as we can before 11 p.m. Let's see here. Yeah, they go live all the time, Mystic, where they're doing it live. Okay, can you put a link in the Discord, or if you have uh, if we're mutuals, you can send me a message here and link me to a page that goes live often. I would like to see it live. You have a Discord? Yes, I do have a Discord. Link is in the clickable link in my bio. Hell yeah, I'll share them in Discord when I see them. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the unity, pure Empyrean. Yeah. No problem.
Oh, somebody was talking about supremacy? That must have been when I skipped. Let me scroll up here. Sorry, Keo, we are not taking any guests. This is a reading and a Q&A. We don't take any guests during during these types of streams.
I appreciate the enthusiasm, though.
Indeed. Rodney says, which model of magic do you guys prefer and why? I prefer the spirit model. I'm not a fan of the psych model myself. I think the psych model is perfect for beginners and novices, especially if you're coming from a very logical, a very scientific mind. And you just can't get behind spirits being a real thing and, God and, demons and, that sort of thing. If you're not really able to get behind that, the psych model is extremely helpful for those types of people. But in my opinion, it's pretty much everybody, but I'll go ahead and say like 99% of people who come in with the psych model and actually do magic and actually engage with spirits and things like that, end up switching to the spirit model. It's I can't see any other, like I can't see why someone would stick with the psych model after engaging with the spirit. So I am spirit model, but I'll let Quinn tell you his side of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that, I base my work on spirit model. I want something done. I petition particular spirits to get it done. I give them offerings, build relationships, and they decide whether they want to do it or not. So it's all done through the agency of spirits. We're spiritual creatures, as Dr. Steven Skinner likes to say. I will say that my cosmology is, in particular, psychology, the subconscious, and everything. It intertwines with spirits. So that is not to say that there's not any psychology in there or any type of consciousness or mind in there. Because I believe that it's an interface between us and the spirits. So of course there's going to be some psychological aspects to it. Um, Energetic aspects as well, because there's also the energy model. Um, but I do not abide by the psychology model, as in Crowley said, as like spirits are figments of our mind. There's psychological components, like the
Yeah.
shadow parts that we want to open up, and there's dark places within our head or in our subconscious. I do believe that spirits will operate through those darker parts of our subconscious and our psyche, but they are also independent of
Mhm.
that. So my model is not devoid of any psychological stuff, but at the same time, I do believe that spirits are individual and independent entities.
Very well said. Very well said. Excellent question, Rodney. Thank you for that. Yeah, sorry guys, I didn't mean to say dwarfism. Sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't mean to say dwarfism. I just forgot what the word was. Cherokee traditional beliefs are syncretic with Christianity now, but that didn't happen overnight. Oh wow, I didn't know that, Brother Hummingbird. I was not aware of that. All right, we probably only have time for like one more question. Let me see. Oresi, the Hermeticism question, either you can put that in the Discord or come back on Wednesday. And myself and Alchemic will be happy to answer that for you. Um, but I guess we'll use Carmelita. Carmelita, the space cadet. We're going to use your question as the last question. So thank you for this question. What about Aleister Crowley? Do you think he was a true occultist? I always thought he was over dramatizing his position in the occult. So I will say, well, okay. So I can't think, and I haven't read every single thing that Crowley's written. But what I have read, I don't think Crowley puts himself in any grandiose position. I think it's people, not necessarily around him, but nowadays, I think people in certain communities put him on a pedestal. I don't think he did that himself. But as for what I think about Crowley, I'm not a fan of Crowley. I don't have anything innately against him. Most of my distaste from Crowley comes from what I just said about how people in certain groups put him on this pedestal, especially in the conspiracy community. It everything seems to be his fault, you know. He gets this special attention, like he's some all father of the occult. Most of my distaste for Crowley comes from that. But I'm not a fan of Crowley. I'm not a fan of the OTO. I'm not a fan of Thelema. I respect the contributions Crowley has made to modern day occultism. I respect that he popularized grimoire tradition, or at least Solomonic magic, within modern magic. I respect that he popularized a lot of rituals, like, you know, the Lesser Base Ritual Pentagram, Star Ruby, and all that, and brought those out of somewhat relative obscurity and into the forefront of ritual magic. But I mean, in my opinion, there are other practitioners out there that deserve, you know, the same, if not more, praise. But that's how I feel about Crowley. I'll let Quinn give his thoughts on Mr. Crowley.
I mean, obviously he was a practitioner. I mean, if you look into his material, he, you know, a lot of he knew enough about magic to know that he knew what he was talking about to a certain extent. Um, you know, he wasn't able to complete the Abramelin like twice in a row, and you know, because he had other shit going on. Um, and so that kind of like tells you where his mind was at when it comes to like getting things done. And how serious he was about some things. He helped popularize yoga in the West. You know, he has his stakes in the occult and what the in Western occult and its history. And he will always be a figure. But like Joe said, you know, he gets glamorized a lot. Um, and there are so many other figures that I would pay more attention to. But he doesn't really have anything. I don't have any of his books that inform me or advise me on anything. Um, you know, maybe down the line I might get into more of his stuff because sometimes it's cool once you have an understanding of the occult. It's cool to look at other authors that were once somewhat confusing and going back to them and kind of understanding like, oh, okay, I know what they're talking about now. But I don't see it in the foreseeable future. But yeah, he's just kind of an afterthought now for me as an occultist. He was there, he did his thing. He was a wild character, you know, for sure. He's glamorized now. Thelema, you know, they're obsessed with him. Not all of them, a lot of them. But yeah, like I said, he's an afterthought. He's in the wind to me. So disappeared.
So, since we're talking about Crowley, and since you just said not all Thelemites like Crowley, I actually have this text here by Georgia Van Raalte,
Uh,
called "Approaching Babylon: Essays for the Abyss." And even though this is a Thelemite working, they even say it, like they specifically wrote this as a attempt to rewrite Babylon, outside of the vision of Aleister Crowley. They want to remove the view of Babylon as a goddess and what she represents, away from what Crowley says she is and what Crowley, is telling us that she is, and giving a more feminine approach to it. So if you're interested in Thelемite writings, but not Crowleyanity, approaching Babylon might be of interest to people. So, but all right. That concludes this week's reading, The Mystic and the Magus, of the 3 books of occult philosophy. Thank you all for joining us this evening and going through the reading and asking, your questions. Sorry we couldn't get to everybody, but we enjoy doing these readings and enjoy elucidating on the text and interacting with you guys. Thank you, Quinn, for taking time out of your day to join us and read with us and elucidate with us. It's always fun. It's always great to bounce ideas and some of these topics off of you and see where your head is. So thank you for taking the time out. If you guys aren't already following Quinn, please do go ahead and follow Quinn. Great information when it comes to grimoire tradition and ritual magic. But yeah, any last words from you, brother?
No last words, but there is a really quick answer that I want to give to a question that's been on here for a while, and I don't want to leave them hanging loose.
Yeah, sure.
They're asking, where can I seek information on dreams? For example, dreams of possession. And my quick answer is, I do not know. You might have to look that up yourself. Dream books on Amazon, but that is not my wheelhouse. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while since I've even attempted any sort of dream interpretation, mainly because I don't really remember my dreams. I don't personally keep a dream journal. I write everything else down when it comes to my magical practice, but I don't keep a dream journal. So I don't know any books specifically on dreams.
I'm sure there's plenty. You could go put dream books on Amazon.
I'm sure if you just search Amazon for dreams, or like dream interpretation or something like that, you'll find it. You'll find and read the reviews and compare a few of them and see which 1, 2, or 3, or whatever your budget is. See which ones you like and go from there. But all right. Thank you all. Thank you, Quinn. Appreciate it. And Quinn, I will catch you in next week's. I guess we'll have to talk about the date and time and all that other stuff. But I will see you next week. Everyone else, I will most likely see you probably tomorrow. So until then, as always, seek the mysteries. Peace.